At this time in my life, I had to clean up my entire life. My life was unworkable and lacked integrity. I'm going to explain what that means. So imagine there's this little boy around 8 years old. He's got 2 older siblings. One day, this little boy is eating spaghetti bolognese and gets it all over his white t-shirt. It's everywhere. And you can see the spaghetti, the red sauce everywhere. He looks at himself and thinks, holy moly, I'm going to be in big trouble. I need to cover this up. I need to hide it. I need to sort it out. So he takes off his clothes, puts all the clothes in the washing machine, but including all the household clothes as well. Turns the washing machine on, but for him, it's done. It's secret. Nobody knows about this. He's going to get away with having put all this spaghetti bolognese all over his white t-shirt. Sweet. Mom comes home. She opens the washing machine, takes out the clothes, and looks in horror. All the clothes are now stained with this bolognese sauce. And mom is thinking, who in the world has done this? I now need to get new clothes. There's no stain remover that's going to remove all these marks from the clothes. Mom now needs to spend money on new clothes, which she may not have. The kids need clothes for tomorrow, but they don't have money for new clothes. For this 8-year-old boy, everything is sweet. All of this that's happening with mom is out of his reality. He does not realize that there's a real impact. The impact of ruining the other clothes, the impact of now mom having to buy new clothes, and the impact that they may not have clothes for tomorrow. While this little boy thinks he has got away with it, his relationships alter, even though he doesn't know that. When he's around mom, he becomes quieter because he's thinking if he says too much, mom is going to realize that it was him. His relationship with his siblings also alter. The siblings know that they didn't do it, so it must have been him. But he's not owning up to it. So there is friction in the relationship with his siblings. It may seem like a little thing, but this poor little boy has lost a real connection with his family. He's no longer as free with his mom because he's scared to be in trouble. He's no longer as close with his siblings because he's not admitted to what he's done. Now, contrast this with business. This is exactly the same thing in the business community. It might be a small little thing, coming late to work, and you try to cover that up. It might be not getting a proposal done on time, and you try to cover that up. It might be the boss not having money to pay their employees, and they try to cover that up. They may be small things, but there's a huge impact to the relationships. How does this little boy fix the situation? By owning up to exactly what he has done. Telling mom what he has done. Telling the siblings what he has done. And taking full responsibility for it. This may be really scary for the little boy to do, but by owning up, he gets the opportunity to be free, to restore the connections that he has, to be fully himself. So when he's with mom, he's not thinking, will mom find out? Because that's what's taking the space and energy. Rather than, hi mom, do you want to go to play? This is what I've done. Those concerns then disappear. That little boy gets to be free. The little boy also gets to be free with his siblings because he's owned up. The little boy gets to be free with his siblings and has the opportunity for a new connection with his siblings. So what integrity makes available is for the little boy to be free and no longer pretend that something hadn't happened. And also for an opportunity for a better connection. It's not always the case that a person would forgive. It's not always the case that the person will be understanding. But it creates that opportunity when you start restoring integrity. Integrity is an opportunity to be free. What really messes people up is not just the telling of one lie or one thing that doesn't really work. It's all of the lies. One lie leads to the next lie, to the next lie. Then you're pretending with one person. And then when you're with a different person, you're acting like you're somebody different. And then you have all these people and all these relationships where you're trying to pretend to be somebody in one relationship and a different person in the other to maintain all the lies. That is what messes up people. That was what was messing me up. All those little things I'd been pretending. By themselves, they may not have looked like much, but together, it was like an avalanche overwhelming my life. Bringing back integrity was very scary and challenging, but that is exactly what I had to do to bring back workability in my life and for me to be free. For me, integrity was bringing back workability to my finances because my pretense that I had my finances handled was impacting my family, it was impacting my friends, it was impacting my livelihood, it was impacting everything. My finances was the rotten core of my life. One of the things I did was discovering living within my means. I couldn't live on credit cards anymore. That fast cash wasn't available for me. I had to create a budget for food. I was living off $200 per fortnight for food. I had to cancel subscriptions. Even though I nearly went bankrupt, I still had my Netflix subscription. I still had my Naked Wines subscription. Even though I was close to bankruptcy, I was still holding on to things in my life that I thought I needed. I had to get rid of my Netflix subscription. I had to get rid of my wine subscription. I had to stop so many other expenses that I thought I needed. I needed to create agreements with my banks. I needed to create agreements with my accountant. I needed to create agreements with Andrew. I'd borrowed money from Andrew and I wasn't going to be able to make the repayments. I communicated to Andrew that I was pretending to be this extraordinary business person, while in actual fact, I was struggling and surviving. I created an agreement with the banks where they provided me with financial hardship, which meant that instead of paying $2,000 or more per month on my credit card repayments, which I could not afford, I was going to be paying $20 a fortnight. So that was me bringing workability to my life as well. The agreements were to last for 12 months. For me, cleaning up my life entailed asking my friends Paul and Chanel whether I could live with them rent-free. So they agreed to me living with them rent-free, and I stayed with them for about 9 months rent-free to give me a foundation financially. When I asked that, I was so scared and ashamed that I needed this help. But that was what was going to make the difference. In exchange for living with them rent-free, I got to coach Chanel in her music career and one of the albums that she was creating. So that's how I got to live with them. I lived with them in exchange for providing my services to them. Another way of cleaning up my life was having a clear budget. I no longer could live beyond my means. I had to now live within my means. So it looked like being clear about all of my expenses, being clear about how much money I had for food, being clear about how much money I needed for public transport to get to work. Every single cent was accountable. One of the most challenging things to clean up my life was talking to the banks. I owed them so much money. One of the banks, I owed them over $28,000 of money. And for me, that was such a huge amount of money. I thought that if I was going to call the bank, I was actually going to put them on notice that my life did not work and that they could take some actions. my credit rating could go down the hill. What if they were going to call the police? Was this going to lead into a civil case? I didn't know. I was terrified. I called the bank up. I explained what's happening to me. And we actually entered into an agreement, a hardship agreement for 12 months. The end game with the bank was to create an agreement, but that required me to communicate. That required me to be vulnerable, and that required me to stop pretending I had everything figured out, irrespective of my concerns. That was my access to an agreement. So I called the bank up, full of concern and consideration. I told them exactly what I'd done. I'd stuffed up in business and I'd pretended that I had things handled, and now I had this humongous debt that I could not afford to pay. And I asked them if there was going to be a way for me to deal with this huge amount of money. They explained to me that they could enter into what they call a hardship period, which would be for 12 months. And that there was an agreement to make a very tiny contribution on a monthly basis. Once that 12 months came to an end, then I'd be required to pay back the money, the principal plus the interest, which was still a lot of money. But that bought me time for 12 months to figure out how I was going to do that. I created an agreement with the bank for 12 months, which gave me some space to look at how I was going to deal with all this debt powerfully. So by cleaning up my life, I'd got a job, I had agreements with the bank, I'd been open and vulnerable with my family regarding what I was dealing with. I had created a new plan with Andrew, and I was bringing back integrity to my life. I was determined to bring workability to my life. Prior to all of this, I had felt so stuck, helpless, and like life was being sucked out of me. But by cleaning up my life, I'd created a pathway. This pathway to look at how to clean it all up. For about 12 months, I've just been cleaning up my life, learning to live within my means, and bring back power into my life. And there's this opening to discover what is going to make this difference. After 12 months, I was going to have to pay back the bank the principal and the interest that I owed them. My monthly repayments would be thousands of dollars. I did not have thousands of dollars. It would have been around $2,000, $2,500 a month just in interest repayments alone. I did not have that kind of money. Up to this point, I hadn't yet been really vulnerable with people. This situation opened up a whole new opportunity to clean up my life. I remember sharing with one of my friends, Dalton, and he told me that I could call the banks up and actually make an offer to them and see if they would take up the offer. I could offer them some money in full settlement for all the amount of money I owed them. I called them up. Before I call them up, I think about what I could offer. I think to myself, I could offer them $5,000. I probably could raise that amount of money. That could be in full settlement for all my debts, which were around $28,000. I pick up the phone, I call them up, I explain that I want to make an offer. They say, what offer do you want to make? I say, I want to make an offer for $5,000. They say, that's not how it works. I say, how does it work? They say, we need to understand all your living expenses and costs first, and our system would generate a report regarding the minimum offer. I say, okay. They say, do you want to do that now? I say, yes. Now, I give them all this information regarding my living expenses and my financial situation. And then we have another conversation. They say that $5,000 isn't going to be sufficient. I ask them how much money is going to be sufficient. And then they say, it doesn't work like that. You just have to keep on making an offer until we say yes. I pause and think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. However, I make an offer. I say $6,000. They say no. $7,000. They say no. By this part, my heart is already beginning to race because I'm thinking, where will I get $7,000 from? I say $8,000. They say no. I'm getting frustrated and anxious by this time. Why can't they just tell me how much? This is pointless, me making an offer. I say $9,000. They say no. By this time, my head is aching because my body is telling me I can't raise $9,000. There is no way. I say $10,000. They say no. $10,500. They say no. $12,000. No. $13,000. No. $13,500. Yes. By this stage, I'm lying on my bed, a full-on migraine, and having a mini panic attack. I can't raise $13,500. Where's that money going to come from? I'm living off about $1,800 a fortnight. There's no way I can raise $13,500. I ask them if I can call them back later to discuss. They say yes. I get off the phone. I call my committed listener, Selena, and I explain to her what's happening. She says to me, there's no harm in making the offer for $13,500. You're either going to win at the game or lose. If you lose, then you pay the full amount, but you could win. I call back the bank and make the offer for $13,500. They accept the offer. They tell me that I need to make full payment of the $13,500 within 2 months. Now I'm even more stressed. I need to raise $13,500 in 2 months. I barely brought in $3,000 a month from my own business. Where am I going to get that money from? I say yes. Then I ask them, is it possible to actually do it in 2 payments? They tell me no, it has to be the full amount. And so I hang up and I think to myself, well, this is a big institution. Somebody must be able to help me do that. So I call back again and I get a different person and I tell them that they have accepted my offer of $13,500, but I want to do it in 2 payments and if they're able to do that. And the person on the other side of the phone says, actually, you're in luck. I'm the only person in the institution who knows how to put this in the system in the way you want it. And I'm like, thank God. And he was very helpful and we're able to create a payment plan that if I paid the first amount and then did not pay out the second amount, I wasn't going to be penalized for not paying the whole $13,500. I hang up the phone and I pass out on bed. My head is still throbbing. Clearing up my credit card debts would provide a huge opportunity for me. I wouldn't be going through life dragging this humongous debt. And Westpac practically was going to be removing over $10,000 of my debt. That for me was a miracle. But how was I going to raise $13,500? So again, I get in communication with my accountability partner, Selena, and we create another game. In my training at Landmark, one of the things I really learned was about being vulnerable and being open with the people in my community. When I started working out in business, I thought that being vulnerable and open with people in my community was a weakness. Very different from when I went to university or when I came to Australia, where me being open and vulnerable made the difference. So I went back to what I'd always done, being open and vulnerable. I made a list of about 50 people who I thought may want to participate and contribute to me. I created a game where I wanted to find 5 people in my life who would contribute $2,700, and that would amount to $13,500. Before I contacted them, I created a plan. I was living my life from integrity, so I wasn't going to wing things anymore. So I looked at my finances and thought, if I have 5 people who contribute $2,700, how much money and by when can I pay them back? That will work for me. And I discovered that if I were to get that amount of money, I could make fortnightly payments to them all at $45 per fortnight for the next 2 years. And that was my game. I remember calling Nick DePasquale, and I said to Nick, he himself is a business owner, and I said, Nick, I've stuffed up my life. I've stuffed up business. I was pretending to have all these things handled in business, and I didn't, which had me have this humongous debt. However, I want to play this game of eliminating all my credit card debts to free me up with the space. And I promise you that if you're going to contribute to me, I'm going to alter my relationship with money and with my business. That's my game. Nick was profoundly moved by what I shared with him. He acknowledged me for being open and vulnerable with him. And he just asked for my bank account details and he was going to send the money. I was shocked. I called several other people and shared exactly the same story, and 2 other people said yes. Within 24 hours, I'd raised over $8,000. I was in shock. I was profoundly moved that people in my community were willing to trust me despite my fuck up. I was shocked by that. Not everybody said yes to me when I made the request for the amount of $2,700. Some people couldn't afford that. I remember one of my friends who was like, I don't have that amount of money, but I'm willing to gift you $500 and you don't have to pay me back. That was moving. One of the people in my community was really offended that I actually asked them for money. They felt that I had violated the relationship just by asking for money and putting them in an awkward position. When she said that, I apologized and I said to her, I thought that in this relationship we could share in everything and anything, and I'm so sorry that I overstepped the bounds. And I took full responsibility for that situation. And I also then acknowledged that our relationship did not include the conversation of money. Having to be vulnerable with people and making requests helped me grow tenfold. I was having the kinds of conversations I had never had in my life. One of the people I asked for money said to me, I can't believe you help so many people in life, yet you haven't been looking after yourself. I'm going to give you this money so that you start looking after yourself and start learning to put yourself first. I was very grateful for that. I was so surprised how easy it was for people to say yes to me. And I realized that this could have been how my business had gone if I'd just gone out and made requests and sent out plans. I was so overwhelmed with people's generosity that I decided that the rest was going to be hard work. And guess what? Raising the rest of the money was hard work. The moment I decided it was going to be hard work, picking up the phone felt heavy. I was so scared getting a rejection over the other side of the line. A rejection felt like I was a failure and worthless and not important, even though that's not what it means. So it took me another 2 weeks to raise the remainder of the funds. It really became hard work for those 2 weeks. I learned a lot from that. I really learned that my mindset and my actions make a huge difference to success. I learned that even though I had a migraine and thought I could not raise $13,500, and my brain wanted to shut down my body, how I thought about myself did not necessarily mean that's what I was going to produce in reality. I did raise that $13,500. I did pay off all my credit card debt. Part of cleaning up my life was I had to start operating in a different way than I'd been operating before. I couldn't wing things. So even with the people who were lending me this money, I also communicated that I was going to enter into loan agreements with them, create a payment schedule for them, the dates of when it was going to be all paid up. And this was also a way of fostering trust in the relationship, because my behavior in the past in my business had created this result. So I needed to alter my behavior to create a different result, and also train my community that I had learned a lesson from my past mistakes. And this is something that I've learned in anything that I do. Whenever I lack integrity, I'm always communicating the thing that I haven't done, but how I'm also going to alter my behavior so that I can restore trust or bring trust to the relationship. Inside of cleaning up my life, I'd been working at this law firm for 4 months. And surprisingly, while I had been working at that law firm, some of the people I'd been in conversations with for about 6 months wanted to start working with me. What then opened up for me was that I realized that my view on how business deals happen was unrealistic. I always expected that after I have a conversation with somebody, they'll always want to work with me immediately and want to get the deal done immediately. That's how I'd done it at Jusseur in any case. We're a fast-paced international business with something extraordinary to offer and would enter into deals very fast and quick. But that wasn't the case for my business. So I started working with them as a high-performance coach. And then I realized that lacked integrity, because my employment contract specifically stated that I needed to get the managing director's permission of the law firm if I was to do any work with another organization or for my own personal wealth generation. I go and see the managing director of the firm. He knew that I'd been in business before coming in to join the law firm. And I explained to him that some of the people wanted to start working with me as their high performance coach. And I created an opportunity that I could still practice law and bring those clients into the firm for their coaching sessions, which would inevitably mean that they would also get the opportunity to experience the firm, and where the coaching then led to legal services, they could rely on the firm. I'd been cleaning up my life now for over a year. And as I kept cleaning up my life, my foundation for my life became stronger. My sense of self became stronger. My self-worth became stronger. I was more empowered. That's what integrity has made available for me. An empowered life. During the entire time, I'd been coached and had been coaching others inside Landmark. I'd coached on 3 programs, which were 8-month programs. So I had lots of tools at my disposal, but I wasn't using those tools to empower myself and my life. It was only when it all came to a head that I started using the tools. When I started using the tools in my life to clean up my life, to create a stronger foundation, business owners wanted those same tools too. They wanted to empower themselves to live an empowered life. Though the tools at Landmark are off the charts, it's their intellectual property, so I had to create my own tools to help business owners live an empowered life. When I started using the tools to empower me in my life, particularly with what I was dealing with in the business, I discovered that this makes a huge difference to people's lives. I love coaching. I discovered that what I was dealing with in business was not just personal to me. As I started sharing my story, I started hearing business owner after business owner after business owner sharing their stories too. And they were horrifying. Some of them were similar to mine. Some of them were worse than mine. Business owners who had double mortgages so that they could continue pretending that everything was all together, with the hope that at some stage things would get better. I knew I had discovered something that I could contribute to people's lives, something worthwhile. And so I started my coaching business, focusing on helping business people and entrepreneurs. What I discovered by being coached and coaching others was that coaching makes life really simple. As I was going through creating my business, I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any coaches. So I was making it up as I went, winging it, stealing other people's ideas and trying to make them my own and hoping that they would fit. But I never got to really understand me, my superpowers. I was trying to have a reputation. I was trying to keep a powerful network. I was trying to make money. But when all is said and done, what I really wanted was make a huge difference. But I really didn't know how to do that. So why I love coaching is that I discovered that I can really make a huge difference to people's life in unleashing what's possible for them and helping them bring their dreams to life without having to wing it, without having excuses of not having a powerful network, without having to necessarily have lots of money to do that. I helped people create extraordinary businesses and at the same time make the difference they really wanted to make in the world. For me, that's wondrous. What lights me up is hearing my clients saying, I've now created a space and a company that allows me to employ my brother who has never had a job. What lights me up is hearing, I now get to spend time with my 5 children. I no longer come back home at 9 p.m. What lights me up is hearing, I quit my job and I went and pursued what was in my heart. And I finally got that job of my dreams. That is what lights me up. People living their true selves and no longer pretending to try and fit into a world and no longer pretending to be something or someone they're not. When I was at the law firm, people started approaching me for coaching and wanted to engage my services to be coached. This had never happened to me before when I started out in business. So a light bulb moment happened when I really discovered that when I started pursuing my passions and doing what I loved to do, people were willing to pay for my services. Now, my employment contract with the law firm did not permit me to engage in any other services without the managing director's consent. So I talked to the managing director and created an opportunity of me continuing being a lawyer while I would also coach the clients inside of the law firm with the hope that they would then become clients of the law firm at some stage. The managing director said no. By this stage, I was living with my best friend, Luke. And I remember going back home and telling him that the managing director had said no to my request to coach the clients. He then said, why don't we just set up our own law firm and we'll continue coaching clients? I thought to myself, why not? I'm going to have it all. I'm not going to be limited by this circumstance. So Luke and I then decided to start a law firm together and also a coaching business together. I was so excited to step out back into the business community. But this time, it was going to be very different from the past.